Welcome, friends, and thank you for joining us for this live-streamed interview with Nikki That Rocktographer. The keen-eyed among you will, of course, note that I am not Nikki. My name is Mark Allard Will, and I'm going to be your MC for tonight. I'm a local comic book writer and a landscape photographer. When I say local, I do, of course, mean local to Saskatoon. And I've got a few messages to bring for you before we jump into the reason you're all here tonight. And that is, of course, that interview with Nikki. So the first message is to let you know that tonight's interview is brought to you as a celebration of May is Photo Month and comes to you through a partnership between London Drugs and SaskMusic. London Drugs is a 100% Canadian-owned company headquartered in BC with stores in more than 35 centres across Western Canada, including 5 in Saskatchewan. Many locations feature a full-service photo centre offering everything from high-quality photo printing and enlargements to wall decor, film processing, new and used camera gear and much more, all supported by knowledgeable staff, many of whom are photographers themselves. And you can find out further information at londondrugs.com. As for SaskMusic, SaskMusic represents, promotes and develops the music industry of Saskatchewan with artist consults and referrals, workshops, marketing, export and networking opportunities and much more. Our artists and music professionals hail from across the province and work in pretty much every genre, and you can find out more at saskmusic.com. So with that out the way, let's jump on over to our live interview with Nikki. Nikki, thank you so much for joining us tonight. For the uninitiated in Nikki That Rocktographer, can I get you to introduce both yourself and your work to the audience, please?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Mark. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Nikki. I go by Nikki That Rocktographer as my photography entity, if you will. I mainly focus in music photography, doing live concerts, album art design, and portrait photography for artists. I would have started in 2019 and we are in 2026 now. So I've been in the game for about 6 years now and relocated to Regina about 4 years ago now. So happy to be here in the Sask industry, that's for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And what was it that drew you to photography in the first place?
I am one for noticing small moments in people's lives, and I always have. I think every moment is important, so being able to capture people's small moments that might not happen again, might not. I want to be there to capture it so people can remember it forever. So that's what brought me to photography.
Fantastic. But when we examine photography and your journey within it, what was it about music photography in particular that drew you to it?
I have been a long-time music lover. From being a tiny tot, I remember watching much music on TV on the Sundays and watching all the live music videos and all that. Brought me to loving music. Bringing me into my team, I was a huge concert goer in the live music scene in Winnipeg. So naturally, capturing a moment and capturing music just pieced together perfectly for me.
That's beautiful. And what is it about music in Saskatchewan and Regina in particular that seems to keep you so invigorated about music photography?
The local music scene here is absolutely huge. Whether it's Saskatoon or Regina, there are multiple groups of genres of different people that'll come out to every single show. You know everybody that's there, and if you don't, everybody's welcomed immediately. The community is huge here and welcomed me so nicely. So I just like being here to contribute to that community in Regina.
Fantastic. And can you tell us what's in your kit bag? Like, what gear do you shoot with?
I am a Canon lover, and I will hold on to my DSLR until the day I die. So I have my Canon 60 Mark II. That is my full-frame shooter that'll get me through just about any concert with a little bit of muscle work, that's for sure. I use a standard kit lens. I always have. I would love to upgrade to a Sigma art lens, but unfortunately it's not always in the budget. And I think a good shooter shoots within their gear that they have. So that's what I'm working with. I have a variety of zoom lenses that I would work with, and occasionally a speed light as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, if I could afford those Sigma art lenses, it's the story of that's how the kidney was sold. But yeah, in my personal history, I've previously worked at the SaskTel Centre, one of the guys helping to set up for and tear down from events. So I'm personally familiar with the fact that there's a lot of unsung heroes that go into making live music happen. So that's everything from your stagehands to your riggers, to your grips, to your light and sound techs, and all of those kind of guys, the runners, the drivers as well. But one of those unsung heroes is the music photographer or the concept photographer, however you wish to phrase that. So with the spotlight on you tonight, what is it that you wish for both event goers and musicians alike to know about what goes into what you do?
I guess first and foremost, half of my work wouldn't be possible without all of those people working at that concert that day. Everybody doing their job and getting those lights and getting all the stage set up makes it perfect for me. Next, I think that people just think that concert photographers are in the moment, they shoot their pictures, and that's the end of the story. But it's really not. It's about curating a group of people that you would consistently shoot with. Oftentimes it goes into working with publications or working with tour management and all of that. So it's a lot about getting all your contacts, maintaining all your gear, getting to wherever the show is, because they're sometimes not exactly where you are and you're traveling for it. And then all the work afterwards of talking to your team that you worked with that night and doing all the editing and the after work for all the musicians and management to use. So it's a lot bigger of a job than one would think, but it's a lovely privilege to have.
Fantastic. And for those interested in becoming a music photographer or a concept photographer themselves, there's all this talk about a AAA pass, an Access All Areas pass, and needing to get stuff like that and to get onto guest lists and stuff like that. What recommendation would you give to somebody who has maybe dipped their toe in photography before, wants to get into concept photography, but doesn't know how to speak the lingo of getting that AAA pass?
The way I started is the way that I would recommend to any photographer is get out there to those local shows, get in and get some portfolio pieces going, more or less, is what you want. Get some contacts. It looks really good if you're repeat shooting bands as well. And from that point, I would recommend to get in touch with a publication so you can get your work published and maybe apply for those bigger shoots, those SaskTel centers like you mentioned, the Brant Center, all that kind of stuff. So publication will be absolutely huge, and there's one just about everywhere, if not half a dozen.
Fantastic, thank you. And in what you do, and you kind of touched upon this earlier, you wear two hats as a music photographer. You are a portrait photographer as much as you're also that concept photographer. Can you tell us a bit more about what that means and what skill sets are involved to do both of those?
Absolutely. From the portrait side of it, it's all about lighting and your shutter speed on how sharp you can capture all those little light moments. From the concert aspect of it, it is an extremely fast-paced environment. Lots of the time when you're shooting for a publication and applying for a media pass, you only have the first 3 songs to get all of your photos that you will publish. If you're fortunate enough to be working with that band, you would have an all-access pass and be shooting that whole time, but lots of the time it's going to be a publication, so working quickly and knowing your equipment going in is a huge piece to being successful in that industry.
Wonderful. And there's also those music photographers who, when they're approached by a band that's going on the tour, they get the opportunity to pitch a rate or a commission to be taken on tour with them and to do their work out on the road with them. Have you ever been tempted to do that, be one of the roadies as a photographer?
Absolutely, and I have had the amazing opportunity. Just in the last few years, I would have done several Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba kind of smaller stretches of tours, just with some local bands, and they're fantastic. It's so much fun. It's a really good experience. And then I have been on a bit of an Eastern tour as well, touching some Toronto shows and festivals alike, being like North by Northeast, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a fun time, and if you get the opportunity, take it and run.
So let's add on to that a little bit. Let's pretend I'm a photographer who, again, I've dipped my toe into photography. I kind of know the exposure triangle. I know how to capture a good photo, and I've got some idea how to shoot in low light conditions. But again, I don't know the lingo. I don't know how to approach bands to pitch myself to them as being the next photographer they take on tour. What would be the way to? What advice would you give me to go about that?
Reach out to people, keep looking for contacts. Pricing will always be within your comfortability, and I can't express that enough. Um, you really need to be self-aware when you're pricing for stuff like that, and most of the time you're not always getting paid, but that's okay. That's okay. The experience itself sometimes pays forward. You get hired for festivals after that. You get to go on another stretch of tour with a band, and it does open up opportunity for bigger sets as well, like bigger bands. If you were to reach out to, let's say, Metallica today, there's a pretty big chance that you wouldn't get a response, but I think that if you keep trying and you keep looking for those contacts and keep working with publications that would have a contact for you, that's aces. That's where you want to be.
Fantastic. And you touch upon just saying about Metallica there and bigger acts. What are some of the bigger acts that you've covered across the province and across Canada?
Oh, this is my favorite topic. It's always a lovely day to get that email where you are getting that bigger act. So some bigger acts that I would have shot in the last few years would have been Megadeth when they were at the Saskatchewan Center, not the most recent one, but the one before that. That was crazy. I swear I blacked out for a few minutes there. Just so exciting. You're so excited when that's happening, and I'm a huge Megadeth fan myself, so that was a really exciting opportunity. I would have been shooting Monster Truck as well, just at a festival in northern Saskatchewan called Trelapa, as well as some Cancer Bats, some medium kind of acts, as well as like the Sheepdogs and some bigger acts like that too. Yeah.
Wonderful. And what have been some of your favourite anecdotes to come out of your career so far?
Oh, definitely all the tales of tour that you get, all the first experiences. I'm a big person for writing everything down. Today we did this. The tour logs are real. So just the small experiences that you have throughout your career, I think matter more than the bigger acts. To be honest with you, all the smaller experiences matter.
For sure. And do you have any like wild stories or really, really funny stories that go along with some of the acts you've worked with, or any that you feel comfortable sharing?
Yes. Oh, yeah, totally. One of my favorites will be I was shooting at the Coors Event Center. I believe it would have been Dayseeker. I can't remember who the opener was last night, but it was a busy show and people were moving around in the pits. I was in front of the stage and the barricade, and there was one security guard, and bless her soul, she is throwing people over from crowd surfing, and I swear she caught somebody right above my head as I'm shooting with all my gear and all that. So those moments are for sure one of the funnier times where you're like, oh my gosh, I almost got hit. This lady just saved my life today.
Yeah, and again, another unsung hero of the live music scene is those
Yes,
security guards for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, I've been at some wild metal shows where I'm surprised there weren't more injuries, but um,
Truly.
yeah, wonderful, wonderful people, those security guards.
100%.
And so let's backtrack a little bit to the photography side of what you do, and we'll come back to the music in a little bit. But let's pretend I'm not a fellow photographer. Again, we're going to go down that path. Let's pretend I'm not a fellow photographer and I don't already know the exposure triangle and all of that. Instead, let's pretend I'm a day one newcomer. I've never picked up a camera before. In fact, I'm a little bit timid of it, but tonight's interview has maybe inspired me to look into it, look into getting a camera, and looked into beginning photography. What tips would you give me as that day one newcomer?
I personally would, and it's going to sound nerdy, it's going to sound however, don't throw away your manual. And it'll be your best friend. Get to know every button on your camera before you even shoot, to be honest with you. Watch a bunch of YouTube videos. Don't just watch one, pick different people. I think there's a lot to learn from a lot of different creatives. Everybody has different experiences and different education, and I think that broad spectrum, just covering the bases of getting to know, this is how this person shoots, this is how this person shoots, that's what that button does, oh my gosh. And you can pick and choose where you lie on that, and then just get out there with the camera. You'll learn, move those buttons around, you know what they do now, move them around and see how it works for you, and I think from there you can find your genre.
Fantastic, thank you. But there's also a maze of different ways that I can acquire gear. As that day one newcomer, what advice would you give me to filter out that noise and to find perhaps one of the better ways to get gear? Do you have any tips and tricks on that?
Getting gear. I would highly recommend. So personally, I got my gear secondhand from some family to start out, so I was fairly lucky in that way. But alternatively, go to places like London Drugs. Go talk to the people behind there. They have a camera for sure, and if that person doesn't, the one next to them does. They know they can help you in a direction, and I think you'll skew based off of what you're hoping to shoot to pinhole your gear a little bit more too.
Fantastic. And we'll carry on with the photography questions here. Let's pretend I'm now somewhere along my journey with photography, and I've got comfortable with my camera, and I'm beginning to like I say, I'm beginning to get to grips with how to expose an image correctly. And now I want to find my genre in photography, and I'm really interested, after tonight's discussion, in music photography. What advice would you give to me to begin that journey?
To begin the music journey, find a show, talk to some people, meet some people. That's what I did when I started. Was I reached out to a band that I had gone to see in concert a few times, and I had known them a little bit. So I said, hey, I have a camera. I would love to come take some pictures and try this out. I don't really know how these are going to turn out, but I hope good. And are you okay to be a little bit of a guinea pig for me? And I think hands-on experience that way will help you get into the industry, and you can develop from there further. You'll learn, oh my gosh, my shutter speed was so low. And yeah, you learn as you go, and I definitely would recommend reaching out to multiple bands and just being honest, be yourself, be authentic.
Fantastic. And so we covered, let's move back to the music for a little bit here. We can touch back on photography in a short while. But you touched upon the larger bands, and I asked you about that. But what about your favorite bands to have worked with across the province, across Canada, regardless of how big or how small they are?
Absolutely. I can even just name some more recent ones in recent times that I've worked with. I had the privilege to work with Mallory Chipman. They are based out of Edmonton, I believe. They're a folk band, kind of a bit of a collective. They do alternative sets, so different band members have a little bit of a different vibe. So working with Mallory was incredible. Very folk, so you can really get into some soul photos, and I think the emotion in those photos speaks like 10 times more than having an absolutely picture perfect photo. And then I've worked with a variety of hardcore bands in the last little while here in the city. So it would have been a band like Pine Ripper. I got to do some really awesome flash photography. You don't always get to do flash at a show. Most often it's a no bueno. So it's a nice opportunity when a band does want some different photos, and you can really work with like a slow shutter speed that way, make some different light leaks in there. So I like when a band is up for a creative endeavor, more or less.
Fantastic. And yes, touching upon flash photography there, obviously that used to be more of a thing with tour photographers and music
Mm-hmm.
photographers back before digital, back in film, because you had to use flash then,
Of course.
because film's latency is really narrow. So as a result of that, when digital came in and flash went away, how do you work with venues when they're saying no flash, but the band wants flash, you want to do flash? Is there any particular way to work around that?
So personally, I've always had like bands reach out to management and kind of loop me in after the fact. Um, Truthfully, if management and the location does not want flash, I can work around that. We can always work around that. That it just changes the view a little bit, and I think communicating that with the band that you're working with on, I might not be able to get this style, but what do you think about this? I think it could really work with this light up here, and just explaining your vision for it, and sometimes it turns out even better than they were hoping for.
Which is the best you can ask for, really. Um,
Absolutely.
but then let's focus more on the artists and the musicians for now. Is there anything that the band or the musicians can do when they're working with you to make the photography process easier? And what we're looking at when I ask that question is clothing. Is there any kind of clothing that's going to reflect too much light or absorb too much light? Microphone placement for live or indeed in portrait shots of artists. Is there anything like that that they can do to help you out?
So personally, I let them lay it out how they want to. Most people are gonna dress how they want to be in a photo, and I got all the respect for that. You'll see me wearing my bell-bottom pants at any gig. I got no shame on how everybody can dress however they feel. I will work around that every time. A big thing that I communicate with bands is, are you okay if I'm crawling around on the stage? Like, I can make anything that you need work, but I'm gonna crawl around. I'm gonna be behind the drummer. I'm gonna be side stage by the guitarist. I'm gonna go side stage over here. Maybe I'm gonna tuck in front of the bassist a little bit more. So my style, I more or less just try to get all of the people on stage to interact. I said, don't be shy. Get in my face. It makes so much more of a prominent photo if somebody's interacting in that way. I think that turns out 10 times better.
Fantastic. And do you find that there's a genre that is more interactive with the musicians in that way?
Absolutely. Hence the name, Nikki That Rocktographer. I'm a rock and roll girl all the way, and they love to get in your face and please take my photo, please.
Fantastic. And if we move back to the photography side of it for a short while, in what you do, there's a lot of different and very experimental things you do. Like there's, I'm not sure what the name of it is, but I would refer to it as flash tracing, where you shoot the flash off and move the camera, so you get
Yes.
the light tracing.
Yes.
And then you also do things like the fisheye. Can you talk us through some of those different things you do and the effects they have on your photography?
Absolutely. So there was a number of years where you didn't catch me without my flash or without my fisheye adapter. So I would still be using the same old lens, same old reliable lens, but I have this old vintage fisheye lens that I just bought off Etsy one day, and it changed my photography for years. I was working with a band pretty consistently for 3-ish years. That would be the band that would have been touring with for a while, would have been Dead Levy. So that defined their style. They were changing over some singers at the time, and it defined their entire new band style. So that was super prominent for us. shooting with the fisheye and the I'm not sure what the term is either. I always call it slow shutter, the shutter drag more or less. That makes that light leak, that turn. Working with the fisheye with it, just I feel like it made the music come to life in the photo. Not only the person was in there. So I absolutely adore it. I would do it at every single show if I could. But like I said, I like to work with the artists that day.
Fantastic. And you kind of touched upon this earlier, which led me to this question. But you kind of touched upon the fact that there's certain ways that musicians can communicate, certain ways that venues and management can communicate. Two-part question here. What was that learning curve like to learn the lingo of how things are communicated? And for those who want to get into music photography, what advice would you give on the verbiage and lingo to look out for and what to communicate, ask for from the musicians, the venues, management, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So more or less when I'm starting out to work with a band that way, I'm usually communicating overall vision. Um, are we promoting something upcoming? Do you have a new album coming out? Should I focus extra on this? Sometimes I'm even shooting for album art while I'm shooting that concert. And that's the project that day. So learning the lingo and learning the way, I think that a band will tell you exactly what they want to need, and um, they are hiring you because of you. You're working hard. You have your vision. You're doing great work. Clearly, that band wants to work with you. So I think that communicating your vision of, I think we should focus extra on center photos, like behind the drummer coming together, more connection, or we're looking for more portrait shots tonight, actually, or we're looking for crowd shots. We want to get this out. We want to show people everybody's coming to our show. You have to come to the show too. So yeah, just communicating the vision and getting to know the artists, I think, will set you up for success. Getting to know lingo more or less. It comes with time. There's no real way to teach it more or less. And like I said, like it's more etiquette based of you're shooting 3 songs tonight or you're shooting full set tonight. You're allowed to come on stage. You're not allowed to come on the stage. Yeah, you'll communicate with the band, and the band always tells you exactly what they need. They're hiring you for you.
Fantastic. And this is kind of one foot in both worlds, the music and the photography. As we know, the way to promote ourselves as artists, as freelance workers, is ever evolving. What do you recommend to people, musicians, photographers alike, to promote themselves? Has the day of the business card gone? Is social media better? What do you recommend?
I am always one for physical media still. Though I would love to shoot film more. I don't have the gift. If I could, I would. So getting pinpointed to sorry. Sorry, can you repeat question?
Oh, yeah, no worries.
Yes,
So the
please.
question was, what is the best way for artists in general, the photographers, the musicians alike, to promote themselves in our modern world?
Yes, yes. Please make a business card still. There's been countless times that I've shown up to a show and there's 2 openers on before you're shooting your show that night. And don't you wish you had a business card to give out to somebody to check out your photography? Hey, I'm shooting the headliners tonight. You're opening? Are you local? Here's my information. I would still do a business card all the way. Through my photography journey, I have learned a lot of web design as well. So I do have a website up as well. So I think that having an available platform to show your portfolio is super important as well, especially when you're applying to publications and you're applying to bigger shows as well. Something for those bands and those management to look at and reference and see what you're up to, see what you're about. is super important. I wish I posted on social media a little bit more because I do think that does help. More or less behind the scenes of the photographer. They want to know you. So I would do, I'm editing this. This is hour 6. This is what I'm doing. I changed my vision twice. I think being relatable on a social media helps you push forward as well.
Fantastic. And touching upon that and speaking on that relatability on social media, while you say you don't post frequently on social media, I would say that your Instagram is very active. A lot of photographers and musicians use Instagram. It's a very quick way of getting your name out there. But on the photography side of things, what recommendations would you give to photographers on how to post to these more picture-based social medias, the time involved, the skills involved? Could you touch upon that a little bit?
Absolutely. So personally, I really tried to develop a set standard that my photos can be identified quite easily. And that's sometimes even just in the posting method and the layout of the posts that you're setting, not so much the photos, because concert photography, they're different color lights every time. It's not always going to be easily identifiable. You're not going to have the same preset you're running every time. So sometimes the editing style is a little bit different every time. So setting a layout of how you're going to post that, I think makes you identifiable that way. So there was a little while where I was running some photos on a white backdrop, just some hard contrast to really focus in on the photos that are there, not so much the background that it's in. There was a while where I was doing some grainy backgrounds to just kind of set the photos up on. And now I'm working towards a little bit more of a vintage shag carpet, very orange and a green kind of palette that way. And I put my posts on those now.
Fantastic. So let's jump back into the photography for a bit, because this is a really good jumping off point for the next question I have. We spoke about tips and tricks for learning to capture the image, but there's obviously a whole nother side to this, and you touched upon it a little bit earlier with editing photography. Could you, let's pretend again I'm not another photographer, day one, I'm about to pick up a camera, but I also need to learn what softwares I need to edit with and how to begin editing. What kind of advice could you give me?
Get to know your program. I personally am an Adobe user, so getting to know your program and getting to know what all the little dials mean. And honestly, shooting concerts, it's not the same every time. So you're almost always going from scratch every time. Move that color bar over. Try saturating extra in this area. Try masking this person, isolate it a little bit more. Yeah, get to know your program and you'll get to know your style. And I would edit based off of a photo and what's good for the set more than what is good for what your Instagram feed looks like that day.
Fantastic. And what do you edit? Do you edit JPEG, or do you go in at the deep end with RAW?
I am off the deep end in RAW, yes. Yeah, so I'll shoot in RAW and I export to JPEG just for some easy access points for all the bands to get it downloaded and posted and all that.
And do you print your work? Do you do any photo finishing at all?
I did for a little while when I was back in Winnipeg. I was doing it was more street photography that I was doing printing for, just because the nature of the craft, you would only be printing for that person. You don't want to sell prints of people if they don't want to be in a print on somebody's wall. That's 110% fair. So yeah, I was doing some prints street style for a little bit. And I totally would do some prints for fans if they did want to do that. I think that's super cool. Physical media is not dead.
And on that note, do you have any advice for newcomers to photography? So you've done all that color grading and editing in your Adobe Photoshop or Lightroom or all the other programs out there. And now I've got to the point where I want to test photo printing and photo finishing. Do you have any advice for those newcomers to photography in that aspect?
Absolutely. first and foremost, make sure your laptop display is calibrated. You don't want to print in an RGB because it's going to come out entirely different in professional printing. So CMYK is probably the best route for photo printing, as you would know. Yeah, so make sure everything's calibrated, and yeah, make sure you're exporting your colors correctly.
Fantastic. And we touched upon this a little bit just a short while ago. You spoke about street photography, and while there is the public photography laws in countries like the UK and here in Canada, which protects the photographer in cases of shooting outdoors, there is issues of legality in terms of likeness when we get to things like bans, and inside of venues there's venue permissions, all of that kind of stuff. Two-part question here. What advice do you give to photographers in navigating that kind of legal minefield? And what advice do you give to photographers for sharing work of themselves that wasn't shot by themselves?
Okay. So I personally, usually most of the time, if you're shooting a concert, you have either a contract or you are publishing specifically to a publication. I've had contracts before where I can't post it on social media per se, but it will go to the publication. So sometimes it is specific like that, and I think if you're unsure, just ask. They will tell you. Yeah. So navigating the legal stuff is ask the questions. If you're unsure, ask the question. Almost every time they'll have an answer for you, and I think that it's a lot more difficult to dig yourself out of some legal trouble if you posted something you're not supposed to post, when you can just ask the question to people directly and get the paperwork more or less.
And what about for the musicians? Do you have any advice for musicians when they're sharing work that maybe they didn't contract for, or is photos that were otherwise shot themselves but weren't shot by themselves?
Yeah. Yeah, you need to talk to the band. You can't be shooting people that don't even know you're taking photos of them. There is a huge amount of permissions that go into taking somebody's photos. And even on a personal level, I can't say that I would want somebody to take my photo if I wasn't aware or asking, or was asked at the very least. Yeah, got to communicate with people. Don't shoot things you're not supposed to shoot. And be kind to humans because they are people, and it's not a red light that day you're shooting. So
Fantastic. And do you have any advice for musicians in what to look for in their concept photographer? As we know with any artist, there's you get your expert at the very top and you get your newcomer at the bottom. What advice would you give to a photographer when, a musician or a band when shopping around for a photographer?
go for somebody that you want to see your results like. So shooting style is a huge thing. So if somebody were to ask me to do like a black and white set, I'm not really a black and white editor. So I would recommend looking for somebody that does black and white. Even if you do contact that photographer, the photography industry is incredibly connected, especially with music photographers in Saskatchewan. There's only so many of us. So if we don't do that type of style, we often recommend it to somebody else. Yeah, so look for somebody who shoots your style. I personally, artistically, I don't want to pinpoint people on prices either. So a lot of the time, a concert photographer is willing to work with you on a price if it's maybe out of your range, but it's exactly what you want to achieve creatively. Yeah, so look for style, don't look for price.
Fantastic. And are there any dream bands that you wish you could shoot?
Mm. um, Lots of bands that I would dream to shoot. They unfortunately are either not together anymore or are missing a key member that I would like to see. So obviously a Led Zeppelin is up there. A Pink Floyd, but Pink Floyd is so broken up. I would love to shoot Pink Floyd. What else? Metallica, naturally. I've applied many a time, but haven't had the luck yet. yet, fingers crossed. As well as maybe some country acts as well. Go out of my comfort zone. I usually do rock and hardcore and metal and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes some folk as well. But going out of my comfort zone and maybe doing like an Ella Langley, just up for the challenge. I love a challenge, so bands like that would be amazing.
And speaking of genre there, are there any genres that you haven't shot that you think are going to be a big challenge, and are you maybe timid of that challenge, or maybe excited for them?
A little bit of both, always a little bit of both. But in my books, that just means you really care. So yeah, country would be a little bit of a spot for me, just because I feel like country artists maybe don't interact with their fellow bandmates on stage as much as like a busy rock show or a busy metal show would, or interacting with the crowd. Sometimes they don't move around as much, so it's more portrait style. So that would maybe be a little bit out of my comfort, but I'd be extremely, extremely excited for the opportunity to tackle that.
Fantastic. And you touched upon film earlier, and I believe I've seen on your Instagram before that you've shot film before, but not so much for the concept photography. Is that maybe something we can expect to see from Nikki That Rocktographer in the future?
I have been trying for years. I've been trying the gear. I think I just need to find the right setup and maybe learn a little bit more about film exposures on the rolls. And I think that's something that I would absolutely crush. It's right within my wheelhouse of style too. So it's almost a crime that I'm not doing it already. I do a lot of vintage like Polaroid shots. I have a 1986 Polaroid camera that I take to shows too, that I add on for packages as well. So I get some photos on that guy, and it's always nice for the backstage moments, for people saying hi to their friends and all that, all the more core memory experience. That way I do film right now.
Fantastic. As a personal recommendation, I can recommend, obviously you have to get these on the used market. There is no such thing as new right now. But the Canon EOS cameras, the Nikon F-series will be really good as well, but the Canon EOS, if you're already in that EF lens system, absolutely brilliant for its exposure readout. It uses an EF meter, so unfortunately if you're used to histograms, it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but very, very accurate light meters, so that might help you out quite a bit. And obviously faster films as well.
Yes.
As much of a unicorn as they are today. But we know that with artists, musicians, photographers alike, that it's feast or famine nowadays. Are you personally able to make a go of it as a career as a music photographer? And if so, can you give any advice to aspiring music photographers?
Absolutely. There were a few years where it was my sole income. Even I was living rurally at the time, so I was traveling in for work a lot of the time, and it was sustainable. I had a very lovely partner that loves to support the photography and is a musician himself, so he's always been there for the journey. Finding your people to help you support those dreams, I think, is super important too. But I absolutely think that you can make a go of it if you have the capacity, the physical capacity, and you're able to travel. You have a passport, all those things, and you have the gear set up. I think you're absolutely able to sustain yourself on photography and music, specifically in the province.
Wonderful. Now, obviously not being a musician, but having seen musicians up close and having spent time with a lot of musicians, do you have any advice for musicians for the same?
Yeah, absolutely. Get out there, put out your application to every festival that you can. I think getting your name out there is super important, and play the small shows. Take the small show in the small town every time, because that's a room full of people that you have not played to before, but they sure as hell will be there the next time you come. I think you need to make connections with people, and that's what makes people come to your show. And then if you play some awesome music, they'll be even more excited, and they'll tell their friends and bring them next time too.
Brilliant, thank you so much. So I think I'm beginning to get to the end of the questions I have here. If any of the audience watching wishes to ask questions, type them into the comments on the live video there. I can read them out to Nikki live. While we're waiting for that, I will just say that we're going to do a quick giveaway with, this again relies on the comments, so please be ready to type in. We're going to do a quick giveaway of a couple of London Drugs branded lens cleaning cloths that you'll be able to pick up from either the office of SaskMusic in Saskatoon or in Regina. And the question is, what shape is most commonly used to describe the exposure of light in photography? So the first two people to get that correct in the comments will win those lens cleaning cloths. So drop that into the comments and you'll be able to hopefully win. I'll give you a quick hint. I have said it a couple of times in tonight's interview. So if that shape has stuck with you, just drop it into the comments there and you'll be able to win those London Drugs branded lens cleaning cloths. One per person for two people. And other than that, while we wait, Nikki, to see if there's any questions from the audience, did you have anything you wanted to add for any benefit for people, either photography or music?
Absolutely. So I have the wonderful opportunity this year, to be working with Ness Creek Music Festival. I'm the current media lead and going to be doing some videography. We do have an opportunity for volunteer photographers to come and shoot Ness Creek Music Festival. So reaching out to me, getting in some portfolio time, and we can get you into Ness Creek. So that is my current project that I'm working on, getting everything set up for that. Ness Creek is an incredible festival that goes on every year just around Big River north of Saskatoon there. It's an incredible time, and I hope to see some people come up, and I hope to see some people, if they want to try out some photography, reach out. I would absolutely love to get some newer people into some volunteer roles there.
Fantastic. And speaking of that, how do people reach out to you or find you on social media or on the internet?
Yeah, so I will be Nikki That Rocktographer on Instagram. NikkiThatRocktographer.com will be my website. It will have an email on there and a submit form, so you can get into contact with me via there.
All right, thank you so much. So that is the end of my questions for tonight. Looks like no questions from the audience tonight, but I assume that means we've answered everybody's questions. Again, this event was brought to you tonight to celebrate Mayors Photo Month in partnership between London Drugs and SaskMusic. And find out more at londondrugs.com for London Drugs, and find out more about SaskMusic at saskmusic.com. And you can follow Nikki That Rocktographer at Nikki That Rocktographer on all the socials, and NikkiThatRocktographer.com for her website. Thank you so much, Nikki, for joining me tonight. Really, really appreciate it. This has been a wonderful experience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to London Drugs and SaskMusic for supporting creatives in the province forever and ongoing. So thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
And finally, before we go, I just want to say thank you so much to the audience for watching. Yes. I know it's May 24. You could be out doing anything. Well, unless you're in Saskatoon where it's snowing right now. But thank you for spending your Friday of May 24 with us, and enjoy the rest of old Vicky's birthday.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody.